Ever wondered how one of the world's most powerful entities, the Soviet Union, dissolved almost overnight? Let's rewind to 1988, a year of pivotal importance in the timeline of the dissolution of the Soviet Union. It was in this year that the Soviet Union, with its 15 republics, began to unravel. The seeds of dissent, already sown, began to sprout in the form of political stagnation, economic decline, internal unrest, and ethnic separatism. The center, Moscow, began to lose its iron grip over its republics, signaling the onset of what was to become a rapid disintegration. The Baltic states, comprising Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, were the first to challenge Moscow's authority. Stirrings of independence echoed through these regions as they began to question the status quo and demand autonomy. This was a significant shift, as it marked the beginning of the end of the Soviet Union's dominance. Simultaneously, a rebellion was brewing in the Caucasus. Here, the republics of Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia were beginning to demand their rights, fueled by a mix of historical grievances, ethnic tensions, and political aspirations. This unrest was not confined to the Caucasians alone. It was also spreading like wildfire to the Western republics, further straining the already tenuous bonds holding the Union together. As we delve deeper into the timeline, it becomes clear that 1988 was not just a year of dissent, it was a year of transformation. It marked the beginning of a new era, one that would redefine the geopolitical landscape of the world. Each republic, each region had its own unique story, its own journey towards independence. Moscow's control was slipping, the Baltic states were on the brink of independence, and the Caucasians were in open rebellion. The Western republics were not far behind, and the rumblings of discontent could be heard across the vast expanse of the Soviet Union. As the year ended, the stage was set for a series of events that would shake the world. 1989 was a year of dramatic changes. As the year began, Moscow attempted to curb the descent into chaos by introducing limited democratization. This was a desperate attempt to quell the rising discontent, but it was too little, too late. Elsewhere in the Baltic republics, people were beginning to take a stand. The Baltic chain of freedom, a human chain that stretched across Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, was a powerful symbol of unity and resistance against Soviet control. This peaceful protest captured the world's attention and served as a beacon of hope for other Soviet republics. Meanwhile, the situation in the Caucasus was escalating. The region was a hotbed of ethnic tensions and grievances against Moscow's rule. The Western republics too were simmering with unrest, each grappling with their own unique set of challenges. But it wasn't just the republics that were stirring. Deep in the heart of the Soviet Union, in the industrial regions of Kuzbas and Donbass, miners were laying down their tools. The strike action by these miners was not just about working conditions or wages. It was a protest against the entire Soviet system. This was a significant blow to Moscow, further weakening its control and credibility. Lastly, let's not forget the Central Asian republics. Often overlooked, these republics were also experiencing their own turmoil. The unrest was spreading like wildfire, reaching even the most remote corners of the Soviet Union. As the decade came to a close, the cracks in the Soviet Union were becoming impossible to ignore. 1990 marked a turning point in the dissolution of the Soviet Union. This was the year when Moscow lost control over 5 republics, a loss that not only signaled a significant shift in the power dynamics within the Union, but also set the stage for more dramatic changes. The tension between the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, or USSR, and the Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic, known as the RSFSR, reached a boiling point. This rivalry was a microcosm of the larger struggle within the Soviet Union, a struggle marked by political infighting, economic instability, and a growing clamor for independence among the constituent republics. In the Baltic region, the republics of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania continued their push for autonomy. These republics, with their distinct cultural identities and historical ties to Western Europe, were among the most vocal in their opposition to Moscow's rule. Meanwhile, in the Caucasus, the republics of Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan were also experiencing significant unrest. This region, with its diverse ethnic groups and long history of conflict, was a hotspot of tension within the Soviet Union. The Western republics, including Belarus, Moldova, and Ukraine, were not immune to the winds of change sweeping across the Soviet Union. They too were witnessing increasing calls for greater autonomy and independence. And let's not forget the Central Asian republics. While these states, including Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan, were often overlooked in the larger narrative of the Soviet Union's dissolution, they were also undergoing significant changes. By the end of 1990, the dissolution of the Soviet Union seemed inevitable. The domino effect was in full swing, with one republic after another challenging Moscow's authority and pushing for greater autonomy or outright independence. As we move into 1991, the final chapter of the Soviet Union's existence, we'll see how these tensions and conflicts culminated in the complete dissolution of what was once one of the world's superpowers. 1991 was the year that would go down in history as the end of the Soviet Union. It was a year of profound crisis in Moscow, as the once mighty Soviet power began to crumble from within. Economic decline, political stagnation, and internal unrest had set the stage for a pivotal shift in power. In the midst of this turmoil, a new leader emerged from the shadows, Russia's President Boris Yeltsin. Yeltsin was a man of the people, a charismatic figure who, despite his many flaws, was able to rally the public behind him. His rise to prominence signaled a shift in power from the centralized Soviet government to the individual republics. Meanwhile, in the Caucasus, Georgia took the lead. They had long been a hotbed of resistance to Soviet rule, and in 1991 their desire for independence became too strong to ignore. They declared independence, setting a precedent for other republics to follow. The Baltic republics, too, seized this moment of uncertainty to declare their independence. Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania became the first republics to break away from the Soviet Union, a move that sent shockwaves through the rest of the Union. But the final blow to the Soviet Union came in August of that year. Hardline communists attempted to seize power in what became known as the August coup. Their efforts failed, and the coup served only to accelerate the disintegration of the Soviet Union. The people had lost faith in the communist regime, and the republics began to declare their independence in quick succession. The fall of the Soviet Union was not a single event, but a series of dominoes falling, one after the other, from August to December. Each republic that declared independence was another nail in the coffin of the Soviet Union. The once mighty superpower was unraveling at an unprecedented pace. And then, on a cold winter's day, it was over. On December 26, 1991, the Soviet Union officially ceased to exist. The world watched in stunned silence as the red flag with the golden hammer and sickle was lowered for the last time. The era of the Soviet Union had ended, closing a significant chapter in world history.